Next up, we're going to learn how to create image elements. Now, images are all over the place on a modern web page. If we take a look at something like this GitHub marketing page, these are all images in here. We can inspect the company logos, and you'll see it says IMG. And that is the name of the tag we use to make an image. So it's not just, obvious things like on Wikipedia, a picture of a moose. That's definitely an image. But also things like a lot of icons, background images, this whole thing you see here, there's an image involved. These are likely images right there. If I inspect, image, IMG. So images are everywhere. And the way that we make them is a little different than any other element we've done so far. And these are all images, of course, too. Because an image does not have an opening and closing tag. It only has a single tag. You could call it the opening tag, I guess, or just the image tag. It's something that we call a self-closing element. And it makes sense. There's no text content, right? Other elements that we've seen before, you put text between the opening and closing tags, the name of the link or the text of the link, paragraph text, the title of a page. But if it's an image, there is no text really that we could provide. All that we do is write image and then provide a source attribute, src. So this is like href, right? href is for a link. Source is the image location. It's the source of the image. And then we'll talk about alt in just a moment. So I have a simple image that I've added in to my document or into my folder called Space Cat. This is just a AI generated picture of or painting of one of my cats, Blue, as an astronaut. So you can use any image you want. You can download this code if you want to follow along with the exact image, but I think it will not be worth your time because we're just going to get an image to display, and you could do it with any image. This one happens to be a PNG image. You can use a JPEG. You can use any other format that's a valid image, AVIF, lots of options. So to make this image, let's do it at the top, just above everything else. I'm going to write IMG. And remember, there is no closing tag. And in fact, if I try and close it like I'm doing here, VS Code gets confused and it autocompletes the body closing tag because it knows that there is no closing tag for an IMG or image element. Then I specify the src attribute inside the image tag, source, set it equal to something instead of quotes, and that something needs to refer to some image. So my image is just in the same folder as my file. So it would be spacecat.png. And you can see VS Code starts to autocomplete it for me. And if I save, go to my page in the browser and refresh, there's my beautiful SpaceCat image. Now we're going to learn how to control the size, the dimensions, all that stuff of images with CSS. So for now, it's just whatever the normal size is of that image. And to be clear here, often we'll have a folder called assets or images, and I'll put the image in there. Now my my image tag won't work, right? As you can see, it shows us this little broken icon. It can't find anything at this location. In the same folder as the file, spacecat.png, that doesn't exist. Now it's inside of the images folder. Did I turn caps lock on? There we go. Images/spacecat. The folder name, file name. And it's back. So that's our first example of an image. The next thing I'm going to show you is that we don't have to have the image on our machine. I can use any image from the web. So a website that I like to find images is called unsplash.com. And it's nice because all the images here are free for anyone to use for creative commercial purposes. It doesn't matter. They're licensed appropriately. So I could just go to GitHub's marketing page and copy one of these image URLs and put it in one of my websites. But I shouldn't do that because it's not licensed for that purpose. But that's a whole separate discussion. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that all these images on unsplash.com are licensed for us to use. So if I find an image I like this fox right here, I can download the image, or I can actually just right click and copy the image address and then make my own image element, put the image source, and paste that whole URL. So this is the location of that image. It's not on my computer locally like this one. It's hosted somewhere else. If I refresh my page, we get a very large fox image, and there it is. So typically it's better to have images if you're going to be making a real website, something that you plan on other people using. It's best to download those images and have them locally in case this URL ever changed. For example, I'd be out of luck. If Unsplash disappears, they go out of business, then this link breaks. But if I download the image like I have for my Space Cat, it's always here. I don't have to worry about that. But both of them are totally valid. Then that brings us to this final piece, the alt attribute, ALT. This stands for alternate text. And whatever we put in there, it won't be displayed normally, but it will be read out by screen readers. So if somebody can't see the image, if they're visually impaired, they still will know what the image is depicting. And then also, if our image fails to load, this text will be displayed. So if I add some alt text, we typically want a short description, not like a paragraph or anything, but let's just call it cat, astronaut cat in space. And I deleted a quote, it looks like. Astronaut cat in space. I refresh the page. We don't see any of that text. But if I break this URL so that this image cannot be found, now it does say astronaut cat in space. Did I type cat twice? What about? Jeez. It says astronaut cat in space. So that's one reason to put alt text in, but honestly, the way more important reason is to add descriptive text for people using screen reader software. This will be read out loud. And then one other thing to know about alt text is if you have a purely decorative image that has nothing to add to the document. So most of the images you'll see, like on Wikipedia, this image is providing context. It's related to the content. I'm sure it has some alternate text. Let's see what it says. Yeah, well, it's not very helpful, but it says moose superior.jpg. Yeah, that's kind of terrible alternate text. But still, there should be alternate text provided for these images that are important. Their content, right? It's related to the document. But sometimes what we'll do is have an image that is purely decorative. Often in the background of things, we might have like a fancy rainbow effect in the background of the whole page. Does that really matter to the content? No. If someone's using a screen reader, instead of making the screen reader read out loud something like, rainbow background across the entire page, what you can do is leave the alt attribute blank. And this tells the screen reader, just skip it. There's nothing important here. So it's not critical that you remember that right now. You just need to know that alt text provides an alternative description of your text if it fails to load, or if someone is using screen reader software, that text provided will be read out loud as a description for the image. And then if you leave it blank, not just leave it off, but if you leave it empty, that tells the screen reader there's nothing important here. So that's how we make image elements.